And for some reason, the audio, the intro does not want to play. So, without further ado, welcome to the Go.Live Gaming Podcast.
We could do an a cappella version.
We could.
That's all worked so brilliantly today.
James, do you wanna go for it? You wanna welcome to, man? No.
I really would, but now I've just drawn a memory blank.
All right, everyone. Welcome to the Go.Live Gaming Podcast on the 24th of, let's see here, are we still in May? We're still in May, right?
Yeah.
All right. 2018. Yeah. This little episode today here will be a special episode since we will mostly be focusing on everything that has been released with Battlefield 5. There's a lot of details that we have been able to get about the game, and also maybe we can clear some stuff out about the game, because for some reason the game has been getting some undeserved, or the trailer especially, in my opinion, maybe have gotten some undeserved stuff. But yeah, so Battlefield 5. First off, I just want to introduce my co-hosts today. With me today, I have Josh, also known as Whiskey Zero. Hello, man.
I am. Oh, we've switched again, mate. Oh,
Josh,
great.
I'm sorry.
I'm taking over your life.
Yeah. All right. So we have Luke, also known as Whiskey Zero. I'm sorry, I got a fever today again, so I have that to blame. All right. So we have Luke, also known as Whiskey Zero. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. Can you hear it? Can you hear it?
Yeah.
Hype train pulling into the station. Yes.
Agreed. We also have Drainus, also known as James, with us. This time I got it right. Hello, man.
Hello, everybody.
And we have...
Hello, very excited Luke.
And we have Josh, also known as Chromatism.
Hello, everybody. Yeah. My cold, cynical heart actually beat a couple of times yesterday with that reveal, so it must be all right.
All right.
Yeah.
Good to know. All right, let's see here. What we are going to start with. Well, we usually talk about Anthem on the show if we can, but since this is a Battlefield 5 special, we're only going to talk about Battlefield 5 today. We're also probably going to skip the last segment because I want to try to get as much information about the game as possible, and we have a lot of things to go through. A lot of things. My notes are exploding up in here. So, without further ado, I think we'll just hit it off. Battlefield 5 will be World War II themed. This is something that apparently has been... Some people, since it's Battlefield 5, wanted a continuation of Battlefield 4, but it's going to be World War II, and so far we know that some maps will be set in Norway, in the African desert, in France, and in Rotterdam. So, how do you guys feel about it, us going back to World War II? You hyped?
Awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome.
Oh, yeah.
It's where it all started, right? And
I've got you back
been
to me,
long
Rick.
overdue.
Satch, I've got you back.
There was a time
said-
about 10 years ago when I never wanted to play a World War II game again because I thought I
Yeah.
had enough. But yes, no, we're back. We're back, boys. It's time to save Europe.
Oh,
I guess.
And it seems like we're going to get the desert rats I wanted. North Africa.
Yeah.
Last week I was like, imagine desert rats. That'd be amazing. It's happening.
I have a thing about this. It's something that's only just hit me, and I know we want to get forward before we really dig into things here. But you know, I was just thinking, desert rats. You know, we're going to North Africa. We've never been there before. I remember desert levels from 1942, which spawned a mod called Desert Combat. I'm fairly sure we have, but you know what? Let's not ruin the hype. I'll try not to let my cynicism get involved too much.
Wow.
Shush you. Shush.
All right. I think we're gonna have to have a pretty good tempo today if we're gonna get through everything. Hopefully we get through everything. Otherwise, we'll have to maybe do some extra video or whatever in order to get everything in there, because there's a lot, as I said before. So, first off, I wanted to talk about the different modes in the game. So first off, we have something that looks or sounds quite exciting, and that is a new co-op mode for Battlefield 5 called Combined Arms. It's going to be a 4-player co-op, and this is a segment taken from ScreenRant.com. In order to keep Combined Arms feeling fresh and always evolving and growing, the first-person shooter will employ a unique mission generator that will create dynamic narratives and objectives at random. This should ensure a different type of challenge each time the co-op mode is played, even if it's on the same map repeatedly. In theory, this sounds similar to what Turtle Rock Studios and Valve used in their hit 4-player co-op experience shooter Left 4 Dead, for example. Co-op progression will be the same as in multiplayer, which means that you can level your soldiers and your weapons if you want to gain some skill before jumping into the multiplayer mode. So this is a really nice extra addition to the game, that if you're new to the Battlefield franchise, these games can always be really daunting, to be honest. Just realized Luke is missing on the screen. I'll fix that. Don't you worry. Don't you worry. But yeah, I kind of like the idea that the progression is the same in this co-op mode as in the multiplayer player. Are you guys interested in games like Left 4 Dead and all of that? Is this something that intrigues you?
Love them.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Waiting for the zombie mod now.
Well, I mean, you should know already, Sarge. I mean, Deep Rock Galactic's my 4-player love affair like that. So if it's anything similar, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really good move, though, to actually have this sort of safe space for people just coming into the game, so they can actually learn things. And I think the devs have also mentioned that they kind of want to make it, sort of raise the difficulty and make it a more sort of pinpoint affair for experienced 4-man squads that want to go in and really get the team play in order. Or I don't know, maybe there'll be challenges. So it'd be interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting you call it a safe space, because it won't be. Let's be honest. People like me who have had a bad day and just want to pad their ego are going to go in there and then just going to go pop, 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 pop until they feel good about themselves again.
It'll be safer than going against other people online, though, won't it, to be fair?
True.
Yeah, agreed. Now I like this because this has the potential of actually becoming its own thing, which people will play over and over. We know that people are still playing Left 4 Dead to this day, and also we have games like Josh mentioned, for example, Deep Rock Galactic, which is an excellent game that is really enjoyable, if you ask me. So if this mode is hitting all the right notes and all the right points, then yeah, more stuff to enjoy, really. So that might be something that we check out, maybe together, or maybe not all of us can, but we'll try to do as many of us that we can in that mode and try to do something fun of it. I think once the day is here. All right, so that's the Combined Arms mode. We are going to get single-player war stories again. So it's going to be very similar to what Battlefield 1 delivered. We're going to get multiple stories across different places. Yeah, this was something that people really liked in Battlefield 1. Seems like before that, Battlefield wasn't known for their good single-player campaigns, but this last idea really worked with people, and it seems like they want to continue on that. So, yeah, I'm happy with that.
Absolutely, it was mega in BF1. Glad they brought it through.
Absolutely, and I don't think it's. I don't want to spoil anything for people that just want to, stay on. They don't want to know where we're going. Maybe that'd be the better thing to do. But yeah, some of the stories and some of the perspectives that we're going to be seeing do sound rather interesting, and they've been waiting for quite some time. So yeah, could be very, very good.
Yeah, indeed.
Be very interesting to see if at the end of one of the war stories you earn the Iron Cross.
Oh, giving so much away now.
Yeah.
Damn it! Now you've ruined it. I was kind of hoping I'd play a double agent. You earned the Iron Cross, and now you've just popped it. It's just oh well.
Oh well. There's not too much else to talk about that. I mean, we will have to see if it's as good as it was in Battlefield 1. Me personally, some of the war stories were a little bit on the ridiculous side.
Bit cliched.
Yeah, like we had the heavy mission where you were going around with a armor just mowing down people. It was a little bit off-putting, if you ask me, when it came to it was the contrast between the missions were a little bit off at times, but most of them were really great. So I can say that probably will be something I enjoy. Yeah.
Although that was also bordering on the ridiculous, let's be honest. One tank surviving that far, that many field guns and that much artillery.
Yeah.
To be honest, that many tanks in one place, period. But hey, it's okay.
Agreed.
It's okay.
Well, that was the Battle of Cambrai, but you know.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to get historical about this.
Oh, let's not touch that barge, Paul.
Yeah, that is something.
Poison chalice, my friend.
That I hope we can. Yeah, I hope there's something that we can discuss after we've gone through all the notes that I have here today, because I think that is something that you need to understand and be knowledgeable about before you make up your mind about Battlefield 5. But yeah, let's continue here, shall we? Of course, there's going to be a multiplayer mode, and so far we have 4 modes in the multiplayer mode that are confirmed. That is Conquest. It's going to be go back to the original Conquest mode thing. Like it was a little bit different in Battlefield 1, but we're going back to the classical version of Conquest in Battlefield 5. There's going to be a deathmatch option and a domination options. Those are options that I generally play a lot because it's just what I try to or usually lean towards. And there's going to be something called Grand Operations. So, what are Grand Operations? They're going to be pretty much what Battlefield 1 delivered with operations. So, these operations will take over 4 fictional days and will be pretty dynamic. On one day, you will have one goal and one mode, and on day 2, there might be something else. And these will also be forced until day 3 and won't end early like the operations in Battlefield 1 could do if it was very one-sided. So the performance on day 1 will carry over to day 2. So, for example, if there's cannons that you need to take out on day 1, those are still there on day 2 and will make it harder for the attackers if they did not play the objective. And on day 3, it's probably going to be something similar. Day 4, though, is the one that is going to be the day that you're going to see the least, I think, because this is sort of a last. They're really calling it a last stand. If there's not a clear winner, this will be the last stand to decide a winner. Last stand is 1 life, not 2 spawns, 1 spawn, and the team will, with the surviving soldiers, win. There's also significantly reduced resources. So, for example, you will only have 1 magazine in your weapon, and there's also going to be extreme weather. So it can be a snowstorm or a regular storm or maybe some sort of sandstorm and all of that. So the visibility is going to be reduced. So day 4 is going to be really critical and really pretty much chaotic, but it's still going to be something where you want to be really scarce with your resources. And I think the some camping tactics will be quite good on a day 4 here. Grand operations are also modular, meaning that playing them on a Monday, a real Monday, not a day in this game, might not be the same as playing them on a Tuesday. They might be switching up the different objectives on day 1 and day 2 and day 3 and the modes that you're playing in these operations. So it's going to be something that is ever not evolving, but it's going to be changing all the time, making it a really fresh experience almost all the time. So it sounds pretty Sounds pretty what do you call it?
Insane.
Yeah.
Diverse? I don't know.
Oh,
Oh, no, we'll get to that later.
Yeah.
Naughty me.
There you are, we took it once again.
I'm watching you.
Yeah,
It's
but
going to be epic.
yeah, I really like the operations in Battlefield 1, so I hope these are going to continue that, but also the fact that they're sort of ever changing is going to be interesting because the operations mode is going to be something that you can't really, well, I guess you can learn it and master it, but it's going to be harder since it's changing all the time, which will probably lessen the gap between the more advanced players and the new players, as long as the people are playing the objectives.
Yeah,
and therein lies the rub. As long as the players are playing the objectives.
What you mean,
The thing
rather
is-
than
Agreed.
just shoot each other?
I was going to say, it does seem like they are changing the mechanics in the gameplay
does.
specifically to make people actually play the game as it's intended. And I'm
Yeah.
all for that because there's nothing more frustrating than when you go in and you're working really hard as your squad and the rest of your team are just cocking about and you lose. It's frustrating and it's
Yeah.
disheartening. So I'm looking forward to it personally. I think there's a section of people that are playing the game that are going to be butthurt. We'll come on to that later. But, I think it's going to be a really rewarding experience if you give it a chance. I really do.
Yeah, agreed.
The operations, for me, on a personal note, the operations in Battlefield 1 were fantastic because I'm a very
They really
story-driven guy. And to be able to have the multiplayer experience with that story, linking everything together, just made for easily for my favorite mode.
Yeah, agreed.
Absolutely. I'd agree with you there. In fact, what I'm really waiting with bated breath to find out is if co-op mode is going to be its own set of stories in and of itself. Once upon a time, it used to be like that. You have your single player campaign, you'd have a separate co-op campaign, and then you'd have multiplayer. So it'd be interesting to see how that works because you're
I
going to
think there might
have
be a
a
narrative.
full player.
I think there might be
Yeah.
narrative laced into it, but I don't think it's going to be a campaign if it's dynamic objectives, as they seem to be suggesting. Because I don't think it's dynamic enemies. I think it's also dynamic objectives. But that's my read
is.
on it. So,
But the way that I understood it was that depending on whether you won, lost, or stalemated, the outcomes could change as well. The
Oh,
overarching campaigns. So I think
Interesting.
that there's going to be like there's going to be micro things like strength, troop numbers, and positions of things like that, which can have a sprinkling of random number throwing, I believe. And then you've got the macro objectives, which are you need to win this, you need to do this, that, the other, which will then tie into how the narrative goes.
Yeah.
That's kind of what that's what I took away from it. I could be completely wrong, but if they do go that way, I think it would be pretty groundbreaking actually, and something we'll hopefully see more of.
Yeah, agreed.
It'll also be interesting to see if they link any of these into actual historical battles.
They're probably going to go that way. I mean, they tried to do that with Battlefield 1, like at least the scenes of war are inspired by real life places. So
yes, absolutely. And they took some of the things, like they took the war stories from like the Battle of Cambrai, as we mentioned earlier, and then you had Avanti Savonia in the operations where you were actually sort of going through a rerun of the Austro-Hungarian / Italian front in that particular theatre of war. But I don't know, it's just something inside me that really wants to play a grand operation around, a bit cheesy, but D-Day, or go through the Battle of Bastogne, or
Operation Market Garden.
I was literally going to say Market Garden.
That is
Capture the
perfect.
bridge.
Right, you
Honestly,
could actually win. You could actually make it all the way to the end and take the
Day
bridges.
4, bridge too far.
yeah, I hope they don't entirely ignore those fronts because I know they want to do different fronts. And frankly, I mean, I know I've said it to you guys, and I'll say it again. I want to go back to Wake Island, and I would love to do something like that in the Pacific as well.
Well, yeah,
I
there's
would
the
love
Pacific
to go back
campaign.
and do that.
Iwo Jima, day 1. Day
That'd be
1
nuts.
land. Day 4, routing them out of the mountain, and vice versa, trying to push them back.
yeah,
It really could be.
they didn't abandon those sort of secondary, if you like, I don't want to put any less emphasis on them, but secondary theatres of war in Battlefield 1, where they brought in the Gallipoli campaign and they brought in the Lawrence of Arabia front. They did expand out, and they did include those other theatres as well. So yes, I think a Pacific campaign is perfectly expectable.
But purely on a note of personal preference, this is a very subjective thing for me. Is I would say that those battles, those campaigns that made me really think World War One were introduced towards the end of the game's life cycle, and I would have preferred to have seen them a little bit sooner, please. Because sure, I love exploring these different fronts. Yeah. Please do that. That's fantastic. But let me just latch on a little bit to the stuff that I know and that everybody else knows. Just have that, just have that change up and that switch up. But let me go back to something let me go back to my gaming roots. I'm going to keep saying this, but yeah.
But I mean, come on! It's a Battlefield World War II game, so some pointers towards, like for example, Battlefield 1942. It's got to be there, like a revamp of an old map or something like that. It would be weird if they didn't go with that approach, to be honest. But all right, let's carry on so we can keep up with the schedule here. There's going to be a lot of customization. Let's see here. Are we going to take the customization? No, I'm going to save the customization for a bit. Not entirely sure why No? You know what? We're going to mention this. Battlefield 5 will have something called the Company. So this is a really in-depth and pretty... pretty advanced is not the right word, but it's going to be a lot of things that you can do here. So the first thing that you basically are going to do is make your own company, and in this company you will have see here if I have my notes. We're gonna get a little bit more into the different things you can have with the soldiers and all of that, but you basically make your own soldiers, customize the look of them. You make your own tanks, or pick your own tanks and customize the look of those, and your airplanes and all of that to make your company. The thing is, we've had this, in my opinion, in the other Battlefield games. It's just that they really want to focus on the customization and the appearances of the characters in this game in a totally different way. This is why I think they're going with the company approach, that it's going to be separated and a more focused way than it was before.
It'll work really well with the combined arms.
Yeah. I mean, you're basically in that mode. You can create your own like Left 4 Dead characters, sort of.
Yeah. Very much it's you and your mates, a company, a band of brothers, to coin a very poor.
No, you're missing the big picture here. We need to form a clan for GOA called Bad Company. That needs to be done.
Yeah,
I was bad company too.
But basically, in these companies, you can pick the general of your soldiers and all of that. And I would guess that there are specific customization options for the specific countries that you're playing as. I guess some of them would be like worldwide, like maybe you have a flight jacket, a leather flight jacket that is pretty standard looking. I guess that would be something that all of the different countries that could use. But we talked, for example, like something we can just mention and talk a little bit more about later. The fact of the British female in the trailer. That is, for example, if we're going over to the like the German side and a couple of other fronts on World War II, it wouldn't make sense to have females on the front. So it's going to be interesting to see if there's going to be able to, or the option to be play as a female is going to be worldwide, sort of all of the countries will have this option, or if it's going to be more focused on countries that makes a little bit more sense in some form or fashion.
Sorry, I've just had this thought. All the female characters, they're not soldiers, they're all resistance fighters. And I'm just thinking of the backlash that would cause. Cheers, love. The cavalry's. Oh, shit, we can't use that. Oh, bugger.
I was just thinking, I want to, get the female character, give him a long plait and then 2 pistols and run around as Lara Croft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I personally just want to play as a plucky British woman with, I don't know, like
A rolling
maybe a prosthetic arm. Can we do that?
What, in a really bad Cockney accent?
Oh, that's an interesting thought, isn't it? Yeah.
Where do you get that from?
I mean, personally for me, it's going to be where it's the cosmetic bit. It's where they make their money. It's where they make, it's where they make Uncle EA happy, and I can live with that. At the end of the day, if people want to dress up in bright colours and run around a battlefield, makes them easier targets for me. I'm going to be in my uniform in a bush, taking them out one by one, breaking their souls and will to live, and I'm okay with that.
If you want to put fluorescent face paint on, so good for you. I know where to aim. Yeah,
exactly. The last thing you're going to see is my muzzle flap.
And that's all you're going to see because I've not dressed up like a lunatic. But anyway, carry on.
Absolutely.
Basically, if you wonder why this whole company thing exists and why there's so much focus on customization as there will be in Battlefield 5, is that the premium pass is a thing of the past. So they need something in order to compensate for that. The money lost there is obvious. And they didn't mention microtransactions during the reveal stream, but it's obviously going to be the microtransactions implemented with these customization features. There's not going to be loot boxes, though. That is something that apparently has been confirmed.
We're going to get a chance to talk about this again later, Serge. Are we going to come back to this point? Or...
Yeah, I've seen multiple news sites having headlines about loot boxes not being a thing in Battlefield 5, so...
That's interesting, because on the reveal, they went to great extents to not mention the L word.
Yeah.
It was an M word.
They didn't mention microtransactions either, but I think that is more of a probable solution to this thing, or a probable thing that's going to be there.
I had a really cynical thought about this, as I am wont to do.
Shocking,
isn't it? But I was thinking, instead of having a loot box, what if? I mean, I know this is a pretty radical thought, so stay with me here. What if that, as you play the game and you level up an experience bar, which has been the case before, so this isn't the genius bit. What if at the end of that experience bar you unlock an item, but it's not in a box, it's just an item, right? And it just happens to be an item that isn't duplicated, so you've never had that item before, right? So it can't be duplicated, so that's okay. But let's say, for instance, that I play... I'm really cynical here. Let's say I play as a sniper an awful lot, and it just so happens that sniper rifle that I'm working towards, there might be some legendary tier. I don't know if that's going to be a thing. But what if EA are like, he plays as a sniper a lot. Well, we've just released this new rifle. He probably really wants that. Well, how about we just shove that to the back of the queue so we make him play more for it?
Yeah. Could be,
I'm sorry,
but...
I know it's cynical, but yeah.
Actually, we're gonna get to that in a little bit, and we're gonna touch upon that. But we're gonna continue here.
My own gun.
Yeah, with some multiplayer features. This is my hefty topic here. First of all, something that is huge and something that is very new to the Battlefield franchise is something called fortifications. What are those? Well, it's basically on objectives and on certain flanks and on buildings and all that, you can build stuff. So you can build sandbag walls, you can build foxholes, trenches, barbed wire, tank stoppers, machine gun nests, cannons, reinforce destroyed buildings, boarding up windows, for example, building back cover and locking down defensive positions. So every class can do the basic stuff when it comes to this fortification system. But the support will be specialized in this and can build offensive measures like the machine gun nests and the cannons, for example. And also in general, the support class will be the fastest at building in general. And as I said, building will only happen in predetermined positions, so this is not going to be Fortnite, where you just smack up things everywhere and it's chaos with the building. That is not going to be a thing. But yeah, this is really going to change the gameplay of Battlefield in a big way. But it also will open up for a more strategic gameplay environment, and also force players in the direction of playing as a squad. Like you're fortifying a position together, and that way you probably will gain more of it in the end. Now, if that's going to be the case or not, we will have to see, but yeah.
What I thought was quite interesting on this, in the reveal trailer, when they came out of the building and they did the bit in the vehicle and blah blah blah, and they got a bit further to the actual bit where they were building a sandbag wall.
Yeah.
It was very much the characters had animations for putting the sandbag wall together, and it looked like a fairly laborious process.
Yeah.
So it will be. I'm quite excited to see how they do that, rather than just there's an area on the floor which is highlighted. You go over to it, you press the button, and all of a sudden sandbags start appearing out of the air, and you turn around and start shooting someone behind you. Or actually, do you get locked in an animation where you're picking up a sandbag, you're lugging it over, and you're building it one by one? And because that'd be very interesting to see how which route they decide to take with that.
Yeah, most of the systems in Battlefield 5 seem to be a little bit more time consuming than what we had before. So it's probably going to be something where you need to have your friends back you up in order to be able to build this stuff. It's not going to be something that pops up instantly, I don't think.
Well, that's it. I think physicality is a really big thing I'm picking up across the reveal trailer and the things that are being said on the reveal broadcast, which is, you're not going to be able to just perform actions and continue shooting. If you want to heal somebody, you've always had to stop, but it's more involving. If you want to get ammo, you don't press X, buy a box, and it magically appears in your inventory. You can actually pick that ammo up or have it thrown to you. If you want to build something, you could actually stop and build it.
Yeah.
There's only thing that I found a bit derpy about it was that there was somebody building a sandbag wall with a hammer. That's well, you got the wrong tool there, mate. You can be a wild trying to fill a sandbag.
But I think that is going to be the general tool that you build stuff with. Like you put up the hammer and you start hammering away, and probably that's how you board up windows. That's how you build foxholes and trenches and sandbags.
I mean, to be fair, in Squad you did it with shovels, so you built everything with shovels.
Yeah.
So if I went outside right now and tried to, I don't know, cut a tree down with a claw hammer, I'd be there for a long time. That's what I'm saying. Dig a foxhole with a hammer.
Totally depends on how strong you are, mate.
I would quite like the opportunity, though, to run around as an engineer with a wrench, just because I want to beat people to death with it.
Oh,
yeah.
There's always one guy. Sentry. Bong.
Yeah.
I feel like it needs to happen.
All right, let's move over to the attrition system. This is something that they're calling their new revamped way of interacting with stuff in the world. So, first off, there is no longer auto regen to full health. The health bar will be split into multiple segments, and you will only heal to the segment you are on. So if you're on the lowest segment, maybe you're only going to heal up to like 20 or 30% of your health. And if you want to heal completely, you need to interact with a med kit or a supply drop or something of the similar sorts in order to get a med pack. And with this med pack, you can then heal yourselves. My guess is that you can grab like one med pack and have it with you on the go, so then you can heal yourself on the way.
You can heal yourself and you can heal others to a point, but you need to be a medic if you want to fully heal somebody up.
Yeah. So the med kits are something that, for example, the medic will drop, but no longer will we have these magic auras around the med kits. That is a pretty typical thing for Battlefield. Now you need to interact with them, so you need to go up and click those little buggers in order to get something out of them. Everything in the game requires an action, so no more, as I said, healing auras. You also need to pick up ammo in the same fashion from ammo crates and all of that. But and also, ammo will be a lot more scarce than it was in previous games. That is something that well, we're not going to talk about being accurate or realistic or whatever, but it seems like they want to reduce how much ammo you have as spare ammo on you at any time. But
I think
they're
the
more,
term was war of attrition.
yeah,
Yeah, you got to
Exactly.
think more tactically. You can't just sit there and hold the corridor and just blat away. You've got to
Yeah.
think about what it is you're doing and what your objective is.
Yeah, you need to be a little bit more scarce with your ammunition and all of that. But there's more ways to get ammo now than it was in the previous titles. For example, you can pick up ammo from corpses. That is a new thing. There will be in these fortifications. The support, for example, I think it is can build like an ammo depot, sort of. So there will be a lot more ways in order to acquire ammo on the battlefield. But in general, you will have less ammunition on you, which means you need to be more careful and think more about how you use your ammunition. I don't honestly not entirely sure what I think about this, but it's something that I think will explain itself, and I will understand it more when we actually get our hands on the game and can play with this. Because I generally don't like the idea of having less ammunition. I really don't like ending up in situations where I'm totally on ammunition. But I guess that is part of the skill curve now.
Support player. Yeah, if it keeps your support player close, then that's better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're working as a squad, you would have your support player close.
I was going to say, if you're finding yourself in situations where you have no ammo, you've messed up. You've made a mistake.
Yeah.
You've gone wrong somewhere. You need to adjust your playstyle, and I think that's why they're doing it. It's to stop lone wolfing.
Yeah, it's probably one of
the biggest killer.
Yeah, it's one more step towards Battlefield being this squad experience where you need to play as a team and not, as a lone wolf, as you said, Luke.
Yeah, it seems like they've been looking at how to advance the Battlefield formula, how to innovate.
Yeah.
And they've taken elements from Squad, they've taken elements from the Red Orchestra series with the way they're doing the campaign, although they clearly evolved it past that. They've taken some elements, as we've seen from stuff like Left 4 Dead, and they are really trying, by the sounds of it, to just evolve the entire experience. So yeah, as you say, and to promote the team play, it sounds really exciting.
Yeah.
So
Agreed.
Although slightly infuriating to someone like me who has trouble hitting a barn.
MG42, it'll be your friend.
Yep. And MG42 and a doodlebug, and you're sorted.
Yeah,
I could do
just
that.
throw V1s at them. V1.
There's a reason why in BF1 my scout level is still 1.
Do you think you'd be able to build Nebelwerfer? Because if you can do that, you're sorted. You'll hit everything.
Yeah.
Just imagine as an engineer, you can just like get to the back of a map and just spend like half the time it takes that long to build a launch ramp for a V1, and then you've got to construct your V1. And it's like, if you can make it to that point, like the feeling of accomplishment, dare I say it, that you would feel would be quite something.
Would it be prideful as well?
I think it might be. I think it might be legitimately pride and accomplishment would be the feelings that you would experience in that moment.
Yeah, why not?
Although Sod's Law, what'll happen is you'll get 90% of the way through building the doodlebug, and then you'll get headshotted.
Oh well. Yeah.
Well, unless it's you that's shooting at me, in which case I'm okay.
No, I'll just blow the doodlebug up when it's finally complete.
Yeah. All right, as part of this new stuff, there's going to be no automatic spotting as it was in the previous games. And the spotting in general seems to be reduced and less of a thing. I watched Yak Frag's video and he didn't have all the details on this, but it seems more like that you ping somebody. If you see a soldier, then you ping them on the battlefield, you point towards them and you ping them, and then people know where they are in that exact situation or at that moment, but we will not be just shooting at Doritos that you did in Battlefield 4 and not Doritos in Battlefield 1. It was sort of these little squares, but just looking back at some Battlefield 1 footage, for example, there's a lot of times where you can see that little square over their head and you don't actually see the actual player, but if you just shoot straight to that square, you're going to kill them. So I really like that they're really reducing the spotting system so that you need to be more aware of your surroundings. So, for example, something that they're really working on with this game, or that is much more a thing, is that the environments themselves interact with the players a lot. So, if, for example, if someone is proning through a patch of grass, that patch of grass will actually be moving and splitting apart, and that will be an indication that there's actually someone there. So, looking for weird events in the environments around you is going to be much more of a thing, and sort of be a replacement for the traditional spotting system in the game. So I like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about skill, baby.
Yeah.
All
I couldn't
about
hit
that
anyone
skill.
anyway, so now I have a good reason as to why I can't hit them.
But hey, do you know what? You don't need a spotting marker when people are running around wearing bright blue face paint. So
Agreed. There was actually I saw a authentic World War II picture that was the inspiration of the Indian face paint guy. Apparently, there were two guys. That is a pretty iconic picture where they're face painting each other with Indian war face paints, because one of the guys had Indian heritage, and that's how they want to do that. So they sort of got that customization option from that, like the blue face paint.
It was taken at an airfield near where myself and James live. Just
Yeah,
before D-Day.
yeah, okay.
They were members of the 101st Airborne. And they'd shaved mohawks into their head,
Yeah.
and they were putting Indian, face paint on before they dropped into Normandy.
So I saw some comments on the YouTube video, or the YouTube trailer, where people were complaining about this. But a lot of the times, a lot of these customization options, they try to ground some way or form in pictures from that era. So
Yeah.
they're not just taken out of the blue. And
There's a lot of people who don't know their history.
Yeah.
But that's fine. At the end of the day, it's a game.
Yeah,
It is a
agreed.
game.
So this whole war of attrition thing is going to make the game overall feel more tactical and strategic, and also it's going to cater towards a more team-oriented gameplay. The different classes depend more than ever on each other, so that is something that I hope will work. Each Battlefield game, it seems like this is what they're trying to push towards. It's never really fully come to fruition, if you ask me. But on paper, it looks good. On paper, it looks good. So, next up, we're going to have a revive system revamp. So, in previous games, you had, like in Battlefield 4, you had these defibs, and in Battlefield 1, you had the syringe that you just stabbed someone into, and they popped out like a miracle from the ground and just kept running, and that's how you revive people. This is not long.
Coffee, hopes, and dreams.
This is no longer going to be the case, but it's going to be a little bit different, because anyone can revive in the game now, or when the game is released. But it will take longer if you're not a medic. So it will probably take a couple of seconds, and you need to lie there on the ground and sort of, comfort your friend in order to get him up to some extra health, or however that works. So in order to make this viable, you can actually drag your friends that are downed from a position to cover, and in that sense, then you can revive those people behind that cover, since it takes a lot longer to revive them. But if you're a medic, then you can do this process for someone to make them pop up to a full health, and it will be a lot faster. So the medics will still be the go-to class when it comes to revives. But it's nice to see that everyone can do this, because this will make the pushes towards an objective and all of that be a little bit more alive. Like, you don't necessarily need a medic. Like, there's a lot of times in Battlefield 1, for example, I feel like the medic is so essential because of the revive feature that if you don't have a medic, you're basically screwed. So I like this feature a lot, actually.
At the same time, I think it also reinforces the medic's place in the squad. So it's like, I agree with you. I agree with you wholeheartedly. And it was like that in 3 and 4, really. That if you didn't have a medic, you're screwed. Having said that, now that everybody can revive, but the medic has actually got the place where they can heal people to full health. They can revive people. It just, I feel like the gears are actually locking into place more than they have done before, perhaps potentially. I don't know.
Yeah. And we got a comment.
I was trying to help out your friend.
Yeah, we got a comment in the chat that if you're not a medic, you can only revive squad mates. This is not something that I have from the top of my head as a confirmation.
I think that is true, actually.
But it rings a bell at least. So if you want to revive other people, you need to play as a medic as well. All right, let's see, where was I? While you're downed, because you don't really die, the ragdoll doesn't fly away and you're dead, and then someone goes and revives you. You get to a down state this time around, and you can actually look around this down state and call for help. This is going to be a way for people to be more aware of you lying there. There might be a lot of times where you want to get a revive, but people aren't... or people are pretty oblivious and just running around and doing their own thing, and you're not getting that help, and you're just lying there and waiting for revive that never happens. So yeah, it's pretty cool that people are going to lie around on the battlefield calling for help. I think that will add an extra immersion layer as well. That is actually something I can open up the trailer, and we can try to show some stuff while I'm talking, because that is something that we see in the trailer. So if we move over to here and we move over to there.
Hey, do actually know we? I think he said something like, "Can you help me out?" And the mate is like, "Nope, sorry, busy." As he gropped somebody. I was like, harsh.
Yeah, agreed. So let's see here.
The whole building comes down around him.
Yeah, in this part of the trailer, they're shooting a lot, and there's actually a guy lying in the stairs here. And if you have your audio on, perfect freeze frame here. This guy is actually calling out for help, and that will be the situation in game. That you will lie on the ground, you will be able to look around at people, and you're able to call out for help. So it's an extra little immersion layer there, I think. Yeah, so that's the revamped revive system. Ragdolls, something that we can see just earlier in the trailer here. If we go back, let's see if we can get that. Once he shoots a guy going down the stairs, he actually hits a painting, and that painting is then flies off the wall. So ragdolls are server side now. Before they were client side, which means that this ragdolls can interact with environments. So if they're rolling down a hill, they can gather up dust and mow down grass. And if they land in a puddle of water, the water will splash and all that. So there's going to be a lot more immersion there. The ragdolls are not going to be this, as we've seen in so many other games. I wonder if they get run over by a tank track if they go pop.
It's
going to be interesting to see.
Or if they get stuck in the caterpillar tracks and end up spazzing the tank. Then
probably.
Because we all know that's going to happen with ragdoll physics.
Well, when it is Peggy 18. So, you know.
But until they get it patched out, they'll come around once, so the entire tank just blow straight up. Oh, that'd be great. I'll look forward to that.
Kill from beyond the grave.
Yeah, agreed.
Atrocity.
Also, something that if you're not getting revived and you want to respawn, apparently the first screen that you get to is the on-player spawning option, which is a little bit reworked. Now you will actually see a third-person camera of the person that you potentially could spawn on before you spawn, so that you know what's happening around that person. This is an issue that has been pretty reoccurring in previous Battlefield titles, where you just, it looks like that guy I can spawn into or onto, and you spawn on that guy, and you instantly get just shot from 5 different directions. So certainly a welcomed addition. And this is the first screen that you get to when you're killed, the squad deploy screen, because they want to have the squad together and pushing together. So if the squad is wiped out, and it's going to be pretty apparent if you're the last guy in your squad that is alive. If the squad is wiped out, then you have to go back and redeploy at a station. So if your squad is gone, finito, killed, then you will go back to the tactical overview screen that you have seen so many times in Battlefield, where you can spawn in on flags and on the standard base and all that. So it's going to force people more towards actually spawning on squad mates in order to force squad mates to stick together. So just another nice addition to the gameplay mechanics of actually forcing you to play as a squad.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully that will work. Continuing with squads, let's see, we can actually jump along in the trailer while I talk. Something that we see in the trailer, got a nice freeze frame on the, I think it's a, I'm not entirely sure if this is the V1 or the GB2 rocket. I think it's a V1 rocket on the trailer.
V1,
Yeah.
Call it V1 Doodlebugs.
Doodlebugs.
All right. This is something that is called a squad call-in. There's multiple different call-ins that you can do as a squad, and these call-ins are earned if you play as a squad and gather points together. So the more points you have together, the more of these call-ins that you can do. But there's only the squad leader that can make these call-ins. So for example, this if we play this little segment, this really overpowered looking rocket here, is a great solution to maybe just obliterating fortifications on a point that the enemy team has really fortified a lot and you're not really getting close to the point. Then you can use something like this call-in in order to just obliterate all the sandbags and the trenches and the foxholes and just going back to scratch, basically. So that's one of the call-ins that you can use. There's also supply drops with ammo and health. The smoke barrages. Big smoke barrages that you can also use for pushing points to limit visibility for the enemy team. There's going to be heavy weapon pickups, sort of like the battle pickups for Battlefield 4. So it's going to be stronger sniper rifles and stronger machine guns and all of that. It's not going to be these like the heavy class and these classes that you could pick up for in Battlefield 1, for example. Those are gone from the game. They're not a thing anymore. And also the behemoths are not a thing in the game anymore. One thing that you also can get is specialized tanks. So, for example, 2 of the confirmed tanks are the Churchill Crocodile Flamethrower tank and the Sturm Tiger 1 tank. So these are specialized call-ins that you can get for your squad. And they're probably going to be a lot more effective than the standard tanks that you can get for your team. So it's just most of these are just grain counters against heavy fortified points. So the call-ins are sort of the counter mechanic to the fortification mechanic.
I think I also saw in the some of the footage that we were shown at the reveal that they also seem to have medium and heavy bombers as well. So I wonder if maybe that's a call-in where your squad perhaps gets transported up to operate a heavy bomber. You know, someone's flying it, someone's doing the turrets, something like that. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, maybe.
And what? And then carpet bomb the objective.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
And let's see here. I can just mention this that since there's a lot less ammo in the game, there's going to be less grenades. So even if you think like these rockets look OP and it's going to be annoying to get killed by something like this on a point, well, grenades is going to be less of a thing. And there's also ways for you to counter grenades that there weren't in the past. For example, you can shoot a grenade midair, or you can throw back a grenade that hasn't exploded yet. So even if they're introducing more explosives, the standard explosives are easier to counter than it's ever been.
I kind of get the feeling that shooting a grenade into the air in the middle of the air is something that no one's going to remember until that one moment when they accidentally manage it. And it's
Yeah.
glorious.
Yeah, I feel
Imagine,
like
though.
this is gonna be a lot of accidental grenade shots. I
Can you
mean,
imagine- Sorry.
the only time that I think I'm going to remember it is if I see the guy actually lobbing the grenade. Then that is going. If I just see a little like black spot flying towards me, I'm probably not gonna react.
But can you imagine though the scope for like pro play, and I'm sure this is going to happen. Oh, there are about 3 or 4 dudes in that trench just over that little rise. I'll throw the grenade, you shoot. Okay, that's that done.
Yeah.
That's pretty. That would be pretty squish, wouldn't it?
That'd
I
be
mean,
hilarious.
If a grenade lands on you in like Battlefield 4 and Battlefield 1, there's basically nothing that you can do in order to counter that. So I like that there's options, skillful options, in order to counter stuff like grenades. Because the grenade spam has always been an issue in previous iterations.
I would like it if they got rid of gas grenades, though.
Yeah.
I don't really want gas grenades to come back. I had enough of those in BF1.
Strictly speaking, the Geneva Convention that occurred after would preclude the use of gas grenades in World War II.
Yeah.
But we shall see.
Yes.
We shall see.
Yes. Yes. The classic assault, or the the standard that was standardized in Battlefield 1 with the assault, medic, scout, and support is going to be a thing in this game as well. And depending on what kind of soldiers you have added to your company, that we've talked about before, these soldiers can look really different and play slightly different as well. So after the creation of said soldier, you can add a soldier archetype. Yeah, a lot of this is a little bit complicated, but it's going to be more and more explained as we're getting closer to the launch of the game. But the customization is really ridiculous in this game. But these archetypes will range from standard anti-infantry to anti-vehicle types. So you can play an assault or a support that is anti-infantry or anti-vehicle. But there will also be exotic archetypes that you can add to the game, and these are specialized and focused in one more specific thing. The only one that we know about so far is the scout paratrooper, who uses silenced weapons. Not necessarily silenced sniper rifles. It's probably going to be a paratrooper that it goes down as going to have a silent SMG and a silent pistol, for example. So
silent Sten.
Yeah, so basically the different archetypes, the assault class and the medic and the scout and support will be there, but it's going to be a lot of branches in those classes and how you want to play that class, which I think sounds cool. I mean, it's crazy how much customization they're focusing on to add into this game. It's kind of ridiculous, if you ask me.
Gotta make their money.
Yeah,
That's
so.
it.
There's also going to be specializations like in Battlefield 1, so you can have perks like flak armor and stuff like that. Different perks that give you, like flak armor gives you reduced explosive damage towards yourself.
Also for vehicles and certain weapons as well, apparently.
Yeah.
So. And
the weapons will also be individually leveled like in Battlefield 4. So you can gain additional attachments and a lot of cosmetics to your gun to make it feel unique and pretty. And talking...
I want a golden Sten.
Yeah. And talking about gunplay, unlike Battlefield 1's totally random bullet spread, which was something that the hardcore Battlefield community was kind of upset about. I'm not entirely sure why they went with that approach. But in Battlefield 5, they will go back to the predictable recoil pattern that we almost had in Battlefield 4, for example. So every gun in Battlefield 5 will have a unique recoil pattern that can be learned and mastered. And this is just one of the more steps towards the game being more skillful and having or finding weapons that fit well with how you play with a gun, for example.
They're
I think that's
saying
fine.
all
I
the
couldn't
right
do anything.
things, aren't
Sorry.
they?
Yeah, they are.
So no,
I
I was just saying they're saying all the right things. They're saying the things that we want to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In my
So
opinion,
that's-
they're really. It seems like they're really focusing on the hardcore Battlefield community that has been there for a long time and try to make implementations that speak towards them, which personally, I'm one of those guys, and this really speaks to me. So
Yeah, same here. Maybe we should probably find a way of telling the others.
yeah, agreed. So let's see here. There's also going to be a thing in it's a kind of annoying feature there is in a lot of games. Like if you're vaulting over something, for example, you can't shoot because you're stuck in an animation. That is going to be less of a thing in Battlefield 5, for example, as long as the guy or the model or your soldier is having one hand on the trigger, you can always shoot. So if you're vaulting over an object, then you can shoot to a lesser accurate result. But you will be able to shoot also, I guess, if you're going up a ladder and all that. And apparently, if you're jumping, you can shoot, but only when you're going down, I think. It was a little bit weird. Something like that.
I hope they do it better in Siege, though. I'm sure they will, because judging by the animation quality they've already shown off, it'll be amazing, and I'm sure they won't forget about this. But I have these moments in Siege where I'm standing here, right? There's a window over here. This guy's jumping through the window, and suddenly I'm dead, because on his screen he's looking full at me and just shooting me straight in the face. I can't see that, though.
Yeah.
You know, all I can see is the gun firing. So,
Yeah.
very annoying.
Agreed. So apparently bipods are easier to use. That means that they're easier to deploy. There's been a thing in previous Battlefield games where it's really hard to deploy the bipod because you can't really find a place where you can deploy it. But that is going to be easier now, and there's more surfaces that you can deploy your bipods on. So it's going to be more of an effective gadget. Also in the vein of gunplay, bullet penetration. Not something new, but it's going to be something new in the sense of it's going to be more like Rainbow Six Siege. If you shoot at a wall with a high caliber weapon, there's going to be a hole in that wall. And if you just shred that wall open, there's going to be a big hole that you made with your MG, for example, or whatever. So that's something that I like. I like that feature in Rainbow Six Siege, for example. I think it's really nice.
Yeah, you could use it offensively as well. You could create, you could hide in a building and you could make murder holes.
Yeah.
Great.
Just like Siege.
Yeah.
Ah, there's a pattern forming here.
Although maybe
like
not quite creating windows in solid concrete.
Depends. Maybe you've got a Flak Panzer 88 in your back pocket.
Who knows?
Just saying.
Let's go build one in the back garden.
Just saying.
Would be historical.
So the movement in the game is also a little bit revamped. We are going to have stuff like a new diving into prone position. So you can while you're running, you can dive and you can land on your back and shoot it backwards, or you can land on your side and shoot sideways, and you can shoot forward in the standard prone position. But this is going to make the prone position feel less locked down as it is right now. A lot of times when you're in the prone position, you are really constricted with how you can move and how you can look around and all that. That is no longer a thing. You can look around. But they have also assured us that because in previous games, I think, I'm not entirely sure if it was one of the Modern Warfare Call of Duty games where you could do this dive attack and you could basically shoot while you were diving and people couldn't hit you because you sort of disappeared below their vision, and that was abused a lot. But this is something that they've taken in consideration. So if you're diving, it's going to take a little while. There's going to be a slight delay there before you can start shooting in order to mitigate this effect.
Good.
Yeah. Something that is also going to be introduced is crouch sprinting. This is something that apparently the community has wanted for a long time. So if you don't want to sprint upright, you can sprint while crouched. And this way you can move along long walls of cover in a more effective way without getting spotted and stuff like that. So that's nice. There's going to be new animations. So if you're running on grass, it's not going to be the same animation as if you're running in water. There's going to be more of a wading animation, where it looks like your guy, he's trying to struggle through the water in order to get forward. And when you're running through grass, the grass will actually interact with your character, so the grass will part and all that. It's going to be a lot more where the environment interacts with the models themselves to make the game look even better and more detailed, which sounds cool. And it seems like a lot of these things are being handled server side as well. So whatever that means.
It just means that the processing power at your end on the machine is being purely put towards your experience of the game, like the animation and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And the heavy lifting is being handled at DICE's end, so it kind of just makes the whole thing, in theory, smoother, and it means that it's more of a level playing field, in theory.
Yeah, agreed. So, for example, a thing that was an issue before is that since the ragdolls were handled client side, it would look like the body was in one place and you tried to revive a guy, but the body, the server thought the body was in another place than the body was actually on your screen. So that's not going to be an issue anymore. Also, timers that are in the game are going to be handled server side. Some balance options are going to be handled server side. And this is really great because if there's balance changes that are needed to the game, they don't need to push out a major patch that you need to download. They can just patch their servers, and that way it will be patched for everyone. So that the balance will be pushed out quicker and just in a better fashion, basically. Small little segment here with vehicles. You can tow stuff if you want to. Stationary AA guns you can tow. You can attach them to tanks and then have someone standing in an AA gun go like being towed behind that tank. It looks really wanky. Let's see if I can actually get that up.
I was saying earlier on that it looks really cool, but in practice, you're gonna be absolutely wrecked, aren't you? The minute somebody sees you getting towed across on the back of a gun, everyone's gonna shoot you.
Yeah. Let's see here. That reminds me, we can talk about this that happens in the trailer right now on the screen. Is that before you had to destroy a window in order to jump out of it. Now you don't need to do that. There's actually an animation or a feature where you can just sprint and then jump out of a window, and the guy will actually do a roll to keep momentum on the ground after you jumped through a window as well, which I think looks really cool.
It's great when you watch it back in slow motion. All these shards of glass are falling in front of him, and then he goes into this perfect breakfall roll right over them. I'm thinking, ow.
Yeah, I agree.
You don't see it when it's at full speed, but in slow motion, ow.
So
yeah, commando roll from a second story. You're breaking something.
Yeah.
But we don't talk about that. It's fine.
It's okay.
No problem.
So on the screen right now we have a pimped out tank that has, for some reason, wood on the side of it. Wooden planks, and then has a British flag, and it has an AA tank, AA turret that it's towing behind it.
That's good, solid British pragmatism right there.
Yeah.
What do we need to armor it? Just stick some logs on, will be fine.
Yeah, all the better to whittle a puddle out of when you find yourself up that particular creek.
Yeah. Also, when it comes to vehicles, there's going to be, I'm not entirely sure why I included this in vehicles, but it's part of like playing a vehicle, because there's going to be more dynamic destruction in a way where before, if you shot a window, that glass would always be destroyed in the same fashion. It was always the same animation for it. Now it depends on if the blast, if you're shooting through a door with a tank and the tank shell explodes in the house, the windows will be pushed outwards, or if the explosion is outside, it's going to be pushed inwards. So there's going to be a lot more detail in the destruction in that sense. Also, when you're driving into a building with a tank, it's going to be more sort of structured on how you went into that building and more dynamic. Before, apparently, they had these sounds, these destruction sounds in Battlefield 1 that were all playing at the same time when you went through a building. It was always the same thing. Now it's more dependent on where are you hitting the building, how are you hitting the building, are you going, how are you hitting the wall? So for example, if you're hitting a wall outward from the outside and then going in, and then from the inside going out, that wall will actually be pushed in that direction instead of just tumbling down straight down towards the ground. So more dynamic destruction to make everything look more detailed and a little bit more cool in that way. Vehicle customization will pretty much work as creating a soldier in your company. There's going to be a lot of stuff you can do here. For example, on the screen we have the tank with the British flag and these, I guess it's logs on the side. Some sort of makeshift armor for the tank where you place logs on it. I don't really know what it is.
And a horse's head, as we saw right at the start of the trailer. Because
at the start of the trailer, there's a horse's head, there's a teddy bear.
And a teddy bear.
And there's beer bottles, I think.
Basically, it was a lad's night out.
Yeah, basically. Here's
You've
the
all had
horse's
it
head.
where you've gone out for a big drink, you've woken up, and you're in the middle of a World War II battlefield with a tank.
Yeah.
And you're also wondering who this strange Cockney lass is with the prosthetic arm. But hey, I mean, anything can happen.
It's just an average Tuesday, mate.
Yeah.
You've never been on a night out in Gloucester, have you?
No, I've not had the pleasure. No.
It's not pleasure.
And it points towards vehicles being dependent on which country you're playing as. In Battlefield 1, we had this where the vehicles were country specific. This is going to be a thing in Battlefield 5 as well. So asymmetrical vehicles is a thing. So one team, for example, can have a really fat, slow-moving vehicle that hits hard, and the other team can have the opposite, a little fast-moving thing that is more towards maybe anti-infantry and all that. And that is probably going to be a thing when you're making your company, which vehicles you can choose and all that. And yeah, there's, as I said, no premium pass, no loot boxes, probably microtransactions, since there's so much customization in this game. Seems that is where they're putting like 50% of their effort. Like customization, and going crazy with the options as well. One of the big things that people really got stuck on when it comes to the reveal trailer is the as we've mentioned, the Cockney woman with a prosthetic hand. See if I get a good frame. I'm probably not going to get a good frame of her, but
you get one right at the end.
Yeah, that's not good.
Oh, there she is. She's dead. Oh,
yeah.
no, she's alive again.
Yeah.
She's everywhere.
You can say that
She's
for
all
about
over that
every
video.
character in that trailer.
Yeah.
Oh, that character's dead. 10 seconds later. Oh, hi.
And this apparently is a customized character in the game. So there is prosthetics that you can have as customization options. Basically, if you
Oh, please, I want to make the Terminator.
Yeah. They're probably going to be pretty
What would you
simple
walk?
prosthetics, but they're really going all out. Like prosthetics as customizations. Okay, sure, whatever.
Why not? They were
Yeah.
around back then.
Yeah, they were. Sure they were.
Not on the
but-
front line, but they were. Yeah.
Yeah. But if they were around.
If you were really
Yeah.
unlucky, you had one, and then all of a sudden, your front living room became the front line.
Oh.
But yeah, so this is something that people were really annoyed about, since this is not authentic or historically correct about British women being on the front lines of the battlefields. But the thing about this trailer that was missed or was not explained is that this is just a trailer showing features in the game and showing customization options. And yeah, sure, it's not historically accurate, but the Battlefield games haven't been historically accurate for a time now. Like there has been, like they took a lot of liberty in Battlefield 1, implementing stuff that weren't historically accurate when it came to weapons, for example, attachments and stuff like that. And since the customization is going to be such a huge and heavy part of this game, having female options just makes sense.
But I'm
Like-
sorry to, but on the other side of the fence, which I am, and some would say that actually made Battlefield 1 a lesser game, and in my opinion, it certainly did. I actually did not enjoy the weapons in that game, and it's probably prevented me from playing it more than I would like to have done.
Yeah.
I just couldn't get my head around. And you know, from my perspective, because I'm one of the people that didn't like the trailer. Now I know for a fact that this is the trailer, not the game, and that is a distinction that needs to be made. I think it was a poor trailer in terms of advertising the game. It was not
Yeah.
a poor trailer in advertising what sort of things we can expect in the game.
Hmm.
But yeah, I did a whiplash. I'm like, World War II, yay! Hang on, what?
Yeah.
That's not the World War II I've seen before. But,
No.
yeah, so I actually got a massive disconnect from the setting as soon as I saw the trailer. But the more I'm thinking about it, the more I'm sort of coming around to it for the fun of multiplayer. But yeah, it was a bit for me.
I mean, we haven't seen anything in single player yet, so we can't comment on what single player will or will not be. But
Yeah.
you've got to suspect that for the historically accurate point of view, that's where you're going to want to be playing. You're going to want to be in the single player where they've got proper scripted events that you are witnessing interactively around you, not trying to actually drive as you do in multiplayer, where you've got people crouch jumping all the way across a field and insulting everybody's mother, which isn't necessarily historically accurate.
I'm pretty sure they were probably insulting each other's mothers. I'm sure that was probably a thing that was happening, to be fair.
They were all incredibly polite back then. This was the 40s.
Throw a grenade over a hedge. Hey Fritz, give my mother your regard.
Yeah.
Very gentlemanly.
But I mean, this is. I feel like, yeah, sure, it's nice to be immersed, but I think if you just accept this universe that they're creating, I don't think you can expect it to be like. Also, when go into a Battlefield experience, I don't expect historically correct. I expect historically inspired. If I want something that is authentic and correct, I go for some games like Squad, for example, something that is supposed to be a military simulation game. There I expect things to be authentic and correct. Here I more expect stuff to be inspired by historical.
I've said this once and I'll say it again. 1942, Battlefield 2, Battlefield Vietnam. Squad, or the original mod that Squad came from, and the name escapes me at this particular point. It's some realism mod. Was built directly on the back of Battlefield 2. So from where I'm coming from, where I started the Battlefield, I am expecting historical accuracy at least to a point.
Yeah.
So
well,
I mean, but
sure.
this is just the old, you know, this whatever.
Yeah.
Things have evolved. I'm a fuddy-duddy in the past.
But
apparently,
again,
so there you go.
we just don't know what the final game is going to look like, and this is the thing I keep coming back to, which is it could be they've got some sort of battle royale mode. They've talked about it. Maybe that's where the stupid pimped up nonsense is. Other game modes might be more realistic, and you can pick your poison.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, though, it is a game, and people are getting all wound up over nothing. And this whole hashtag not my Battlefield. Well, my alternative hashtag would be not my community. End of the day,
that's ridiculous.
Get off your high horse and just wait to see what the game turns out to be. Before
Get off your high horse, cut its head off, put it on your Jeep.
Yeah, and then drive it into a heap of Germans.
There you go, perfect.
Absolutely.
Or vice versa, if they allow us to play, if we're playing as Germans, drive it into a heap of British girls with one arm.
So then again, what is the internet for if not massively overreacting at the slightest thing?
True.
You have offended me.
Let's see. I had something that I want to say, but I lost it.
Oh no!
Oh no! Let's see. Can I check my notes? See. No. Just no.
No.
But that was basically it. I want to. Yeah, that was what I was supposed to say. I feel like we need to extend a thanks to Jack Frags, because that was one of the videos that I got a lot of this information from, because he got a lot of information that wasn't shared during the reveal stream from these. I don't know. They had the special views, or what do you call it? They had these own views of the game where they actually got to see a gameplay of the game as well, not only the trailers or the trailer. And he said that the trailer is a poor representation of the final product. It doesn't represent what the game is. It feels like in the trailer they just try to get so many features shown off as they possibly, or that they were able to. Like, they show the customization of the tanks, they show the new revive mechanic, they show that you can jump out of buildings, they show that you can prone, they show that you can have call-ins with these rockets, they show that you can throw med kits at people and that you take med kits and you need to interact with stuff. They show, they just show like everything in this. Let's see how long is it? 2 minutes? Yeah, 2 minutes and 30 seconds trailer. It just became a little bit too cluttered and a little bit too messy. And also the inclusion of the female soldier was something that people reacted to because they wanted to show their customization of the soldiers as well. It just feels like they didn't get that message across. Like, this trailer is for us representing or presenting as much as we possibly can in the least amount of time, basically.
But this is the reveal trailer. This isn't the launch trailer. This isn't trailer 1, trailer 2, trailer 3. This is the reveal trailer, trailer 0.5. This is a hype generator. It's a blast showcase, and it's done its job massively well. It's got loads of people talking about it. It's got hashtags trending. It was extremely vivid to watch. It was very dramatic. It got the pulse racing. I had to watch it about 5 or 6 times before I was comfortable that I'd seen over half of the content that was in it.
I agree.
Because there was literally so much going on. She said, yes, it was. I'm not going to say it was not a good representation of the game, but it has been said by someone who has seen the game that is not a full representation, possibly a fair representation of the finished product, but that's not what it's for. What it is for is to get people talking and to go, bang! This is new! Everybody get excited, and that's what it's done.
Yeah.
And
fair play to
what I would say in closing is the people that then point at the box art and say the woman's on the front, and that means that she's going to be a protagonist. No Battlefield game has ever had a protagonist on the front of their game.
No.
It's just a representative of an identikit person. And okay, you could argue that they are doing a bit of the old social justice thing by making a point that there's girls in our games, but also I would turn around and say actually they're just trying to sell to girls.
Yeah, they just want to include
50% of the marketplace.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, Battlefield and Call of Duty especially have been really excluding because you've only been able to play male characters for so long. It's only in this past years that they have included female options. Like, this is optional. You don't need to have this if you don't want to. Yeah, sure, you're going to see females running around on the battlefield, but it's still options that I feel like is good there because it's going to make even a bigger community because there's more options for more people. And generally, I'm all for that. But some people also reacted to the video or the trailer being really sort of overly saturated. There's a lot of colors, a lot of pop, but I like that. I like that kind of graphics, and the graphics themselves look crazy. The first time I saw it, I was like, okay, this is a pre-rendered scene, and then it suddenly goes over to actual gameplay, and it looks exactly the same. That sort of blew my mind the first time. So yeah, the engine seems to be in the best shape it's ever been.
Can I also just say very quickly the HUD that we saw in the
Yeah,
trailer?
I love that.
Big likey.
I did not like the HUD in Battlefield 1. I sort of liked it in Battlefield 4. Love it in Battlefield 5. The more minimalistic the HUD is, the better.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. That just immerses you more in the gameplay, in my opinion. But yeah, that's basically all that we have to talk about today. It was a little bit messy of a start. I tried to do some stuff that I hadn't done before. I tried to use Restream in order to get YouTube as well before I had a separate stream for that. Didn't work for some reason, so I had to do the old classic approach. Gonna try to have that fixed for next time, I think.
So
But yeah,
Sarge, I could put you in touch with a QA company.
sure. That'd probably be useful. But so, yeah. Thank you for watching this this part or this episode of the Go.Live Gaming Podcast. If you enjoyed and liked the show, then you can send us a email at feedback@gunsofanthem.com. The VOD will be available as soon as possible on YouTube, and the podcast version will be out on SoundCloud, iTunes, and any of your podcast apps of choice on Saturday. And over there, we're probably going to have the intro song because I can edit that in post-production, sort of. And also interact with us on social media. The Facebook group, for example, is growing steadily. Not that fast, sort of. Yeah, kind of fast. It's growing steadily, and hopefully we're gonna get more growth on the YouTube channels and all of that pretty soon as well. We're getting really close to EA Play, and we want to do something big around EA Play. I've tried to contact EA. They're not replying to my emails again. I had a contact over at EA. And then she suddenly stopped working there. And now we're back to square one, where I got a new contact, but he's not replying.
Get with the program, EA. Jeez.
Yeah. Come on. Public relations, EA. Have you heard about it? All right. So that's going to be it for this time around. It's not going to be an outro song as well, because the software that I use for the intro and outro is a little bit screwed for some reason. So we're just going to say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye, everyone.
Taddy bye.
Bye.